Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it out. Tonight, we gonna let it out. Tonight, we gonna let it out. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it out. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up. Tonight, we gonna let it up. Tonight, we gonna let it up. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it up.
Ember.
Oh, Ember.
Miss Ember.
Oh, great, Ember. Tell me what I'm doing.
Appreciate you, Ember.
Love Ember. She's great.
Bottom of the barrel Ember bullshit.
Oh my God, Ember.
Ember.
We love you, Ember.
You rock at that, Ember.
Ember is the queen.
We're neighbors, Ember.
I see you, Ember.
Hey, Ember is hot.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday, or Woden's Day for you heathens out there. We're up to no good as per usual. Today we're delving into curiosity. A lot of people wonder why this, why that. I was wondering, why do we ask why? Now, this is a question that occurs to most of us at some point in our lives. I just decided to do a show about it because, of course, there's somebody out there who studies it. Why are we curious in the first place? Why do we experience curiosity? And having curiosity about curiosity is just metal enough that I'm into it. So hopefully you're curious too. We're going to get into it today. But first, as per usual, a few tangents in the beginning to get them out of our system. It was mentioned in a previous show that Anna Kasparian did a debate with Hannah Davis, and it did not go well. So I want to show y'all, for those of you who haven't seen, the nonsense. So let's start with this. This is directly from it's from Anna's page, The Young Turks. So it's going to be a little biased, but well, just have a look. That's the wrong window. This window.
I think I'm more of a feminist than you. Sure.
Go great. Congratulations.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
This is the longest 30 minutes of my life.
And so on. Like it unto that. It's pretty special. First of all, I love the fact that they even had trash fire graphics right on the script. Like they just, that was the plan, was to have a garbage fire the entire time. Anna Kay, of course, not my favorite commentator for various reasons. It's telling that the Young Turks page is flagged as transphobic. But Pearl, yikes. Yikes is all that can be said. Now, there's a bunch of other versions of this. The whole debate is over an hour, and Pearl does actually say things from time to time, but there's really long, awkward pauses where it seems like her debate strategy is to symbolically be silent like she believes a woman should be, I guess. My favorite is that I've seen so far is Lance from the Surf Times. It's a section where they're supposed to be doing the cross-examination, and it's Hannah's turn to ask questions, and she freezes up again. It's pretty wild. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, that might be a thing to check out, but mostly for the memes, because honestly, nothing of substance ever gets discussed. It's just for the memes. So yeah, thank you all so much for joining. It's lovely to see you folks. Let's see. I don't know if there's any other starter notes. Other shows. Member stream tonight. I've been planning a bunch of other stuff. My goodness, news is happening so fast. I can't keep up with it all. There's yesterday, the Supreme Court had oral arguments in the latest anti-trans case. And it weirdly, first of all, oral arguments, I've been thinking about doing a show about this, but the oral arguments were over 3 hours long. Obviously can't go through all of those. So I'm thinking of finding a way to reduce it down, to boil it into its essence. But it's being presented as the justices are leaning towards supporting the state bans, despite the fact they violate every single relevant law because reasons. But when you listen to the arguments, the highlights anyway, the parts that the court reporters are singling out as saying this is representative of how this justice seems to feel, they're all opposing the state bans. All of them, even the most conservative ones who speak up, are like, well, this goes against parents' rights and things. You know, it's wild how the media seems to be trying to project that the court is likely to uphold the state bans when the justices themselves all seem very skeptical of the state bans. Maybe the justices haven't gotten the memo on how they're supposed to vote on this yet. Who's to say? So I've been thinking about doing a show about that. I have the one that's already prepared, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's been happening, and I just can't keep up. I feel like I need to do more specials. Maybe I need to do like one big news special to talk about more than one thing, because holy crap, being restricted to one bonus show a day for algorithm purposes, I mean, first of all, it's not helping this show any. We're still not showing up in the damn algorithm. And on that note, please hit the share button. People don't seem to know we're out here, and it would help a lot. Appreciate it. If you are watching this now or in the future and you're new here, please take a second to hit the subscribe button. That helps a lot too. It gets the algorithm to show us to people, and it makes a difference. So I very much appreciate it. But yeah, there's so much stuff going on in the world, and I just cannot keep up with all of it, especially not just only being able to do one bonus show a day for algorithm reasons, but because I can't always do a bonus show every day. I thought about doing one yesterday, but I just couldn't. A lot of you are aware I can't just do shows constantly. I have a lot of stuff that needs taking care of off camera, physical therapies, medical treatments, all sorts of stuff. I'm not exactly healthy and I'm doing my best, but that means there are some days where doing this show is technically more than I really should be doing. Oh, so, you know, we do what we can. We do the best we can. But holy shit, it's frustrating sometimes. All right. On to right. Dr. Ben's here saying we were just ranting at each other recently, how the algorithm really hates learning-based content in favor of drama. It's true. And in fact, I may have a solution to that one. Another special episode of some kind. Given how badly the How to Support Survivors video has performed, the video literally has more shares than views. And part of that may be YouTube's algorithm being weird about how it counts views, but it seems like people shared it but didn't actually watch it themselves. And that's, I don't know. Apparently it's not, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I have two more things of equal importance to discuss relating to that matter. I suspect perhaps instead of putting in the time and the effort to do a full production that no one is going to watch, I should do them as live streams that people might actually see. Maybe. Or maybe I just won't do them. I don't know. Yeah. It's a rough time to be a person trying to make the world better when the world seems intent on just burning itself to the ground. I feel like we all know what we need to do. Burn harder, burn hotter, light the damn fires ourselves, but do them in a way that, let me rephrase. When firefighters are dealing with a wildfire that's out of control, they will use fire breaks, controlled burns, to cut out a section of territory to stop the fire from spreading. Metaphorically, I think that may be the one course of action we have that will generate the drama-inspired clicks that we need to survive and get a message out, and yet still maintain our integrity in taking a stand against the spread of misinformation, malinformation, all that sort of bullshit. But I don't know. I'm probably just a bitter old lady or something. You know. All right, enough. I'm being maudlin and nobody needs that. So, curiosity. So this is a page from Wharton at University of Pennsylvania, a school in the EDU. That's why, yes, Deviant. Okay. I'm so squirrel brain today, and it's not coming to, okay. Deviant says, I know that dress. It's from Black Milk Clothing. Love, love, love Van Gogh. Starry Night is one of my absolute favorites. This one, I don't believe is from Black Milk. I don't recall. I think I only have 2 Black Milk dresses, and they both have pockets, and this one doesn't have pockets. But it is Starry Night. I love Van Gogh. I've always loved the stars. It's magical. And because we're doing curiosity today, I wanted to have something that kind of matched. Occasionally, I like to be on theme. Oh, we do our best here. All right. So this is from right, University of Pennsylvania. Astrophysicist Mario Livio gave an interview to discuss a new book he released on curiosity. Why? What makes us curious? And so this is the text version of that interview. So curiosity is a fundamental human trait. Everyone is curious, but the object and degree of that curiosity is different depending on the person and the situation. Astrophysicist and author Mario Livio was so curious about curiosity that he wrote a book about it. He recently appeared on The Knowledge at Wharton show on the SiriusXM channel 111, 11D1, for those of you who are aware of how numbers work, to talk about what he learned in the course of writing his book. Why? What makes us curious? So the host, going by knowledge at Wharton, this is an old tradition. In the old interview magazines, they would say the name of the magazine instead of the name of the interviewer, so that the readers wouldn't get confused about who is being interviewed. Say love you. But yeah, that's why that is. Anyway, the interviewer asks, what is it that really drives our curiosity? Coincidentally, the answer's kind of in the question. Mario says, curiosity has several kinds. What is a kind? Or flavors, and they're not driven by the same things. There is something that has been dubbed perceptual curiosity. That's the curiosity we feel when something surprises us or when something doesn't quite agree with what we know or think we know. This is felt as an unpleasant state, as an adversity state. It's a bit like an itch we need to scratch. That's why we try to find out the information in order to relieve that type of curiosity. So something happens that doesn't fit with how we understand things, how we experience our reality, for example. And so we're like, hold the fuck on. What is that all about? And we want to find out. We want to know if we're wrong, or we want to understand what the hell just happened. If we're not wrong, but a thing that shouldn't happen happened anyway, how does that happen? That's almost a survival kind of thing. Because if we're wrong about how gravity works and we end up stepping off a cliff, not realizing we'll fall, then we'll fall, and it'll be a bad time. So yeah, that's kind of important, but that gives one example of an evolutionary reason why we might develop a sense of curiosity, to understand what could be a threat. It's a bit more useful than a fear response in most circumstances. Another thing that's more useful than a fear response, Liliball Trades sent us a super chat for $5. Thank you, Lil. And Lil says, Ember on fire! The good kind. I mean, yeah. Oh, I do need to be a bit more flaming sometimes. There's times when I try to be simmered down, and there's times when I try to just let shit go. I'm made of fire. It's my nature. It's literally in my name. I need to just do what's true to me, I suppose. Or something. Anyway, Lil is still trying to recuperate from the most recent round of plague. So we wish her well. We miss her. We hope she comes back soon. Yes, gravity is just a theory. It's true. Jester says, filet McGember. I don't know about the Mig part, but On the other hand, there is something that has been dubbed epistemic curiosity, which is a pleasurable state associated with an anticipated reward. That's our level of knowledge. That's what drives all scientific research. Well, no, that it's not, but never mind. It drives many artworks. It drives education and things like that. So I wish you'd gone into this a little bit more. Epistemology is how we get to what we know, the methodology we use to determine what's true and how it connects to other things. That plays into how scientific research works, but it doesn't drive scientific research necessarily. Like, we may start out with that adversarial kind, that perceptual curiosity, and say, that's weird. I want to understand what's happening there. And that would be that kind of perceptual curiosity. This epistemic curiosity, this, I will discover something, then I will know something, and then I will have done something, that kind of thing that he's describing here. Like with artwork, sometimes it is a matter of curiosity, like, can I do this particular technique? But oftentimes it's, I want to create. There is a thing I have a drive to bring into the world, and I'm going to do it, Or you get paid very handsomely by the church to produce it, one of those things. It isn't, it isn't not curiosity, but I don't think it's right to say that's the main driver. Similarly with scientific research, often that's what you get a grant for. You study what you have the funds to do a study with. Now, your curiosity may drive your grant proposals, but very often you'll be on a team and there's a corporate person, whether it's from your university or your independent lab, who puts in grant requests based on what they think, based on political pressures, might get funding. And so you end up researching what gets funding for you to research, not because you're curious, you know? Now, a lot of scientists, a lot of working researchers make that work by saying, well, you know, whatever it is we're researching, we're going to learn something new. And so it's still worth doing, but you're not doing it necessarily because of your own curiosity. You're justifying it with your sense of curiosity. For example, so the interviewer says, there's a basic difference between being unpleasant or unhappy and being happy. I would think that many people feel both of those things pretty much every day of their lives, correct? The fuck does that have to do with anything? That's... I don't know why that has... Okay, so I in the previous answer, Mario mentioned a pleasurable state associated with an anticipation of a reward. I'm going to find something out, and it's coming. It's I'm going to have it. It'll be cool. But like, this comes out of fucking nowhere. There's a difference between being unpleasant or unhappy and being happy. Okay, that's a statement. It's just true. Yes, there's a difference between different things. Yes. Okay. I would think many people feel both of those things pretty much every day of their lives. Okay, you think that. Awesome. Why are you saying that? What does that have to do with anything? And then adding a correct on the end, does that make it a question? Like, how the hell would Mario know that you would think many people, like you think a thing? Good job, I guess? I don't know. This is such a weird thing to throw in there. I don't understand why. I'm curious. Why? Goodness. Oh, all right. We'll get to that in a second. Aunt Jur says, I shared How to Support Survivors multiple times, but only watched it once. Could that be what's going on with the share to watch imbalance? Yeah, that very much that very likely could be the case. That people shared it to multiple places, and obviously a person would only naturally watch it once unless they need to go back for notes or something. So yeah, that's a possibility, is people doing more sharing. Look, I'm not trying to come off as being complaining about sharing. It's more an overall sense of disappointment. You know, our community was up in arms because a bunch of people who asked ChatGPT what the right thing to do is based on their own pre-existing preconceptions, and they spread a lot of harmful misinformation. And that broadcast went somewhat viral within the skeptical side of YouTube. And I took a month to do the research and gather the correct information. And because people, even in the skeptical community, don't seem to actually care what's true. They care about the drama. And that's not to disparage anybody who did try, who did watch it, who did share. We can lead the horses to water. We can put the water right in front of them. They say they care about what's true and about doing the best for the most people, minimizing harm, increasing well-being, human flourishing, and all of that. And we can lead them right to the water, but we cannot make them drink. And I don't know, it's not the biggest disillusionment I've had even in this past year, but it is still a little bit disillusioning. So I guess that's why I'm a little disappointed. So, you know, but we learned a whole lot of things about that experience. For example, well, I'll get into some of those other things on another show. So Mario says, you're absolutely right. You see something that you completely did not expect or is very ambiguous, and you feel somewhat unpleasant about this. These two sentences don't connect to each other. We'll see where he goes. On the other hand, you try to learn something new every day, and that is a very pleasurable state, and that gives you a reward. So yes, everybody feels both of these things almost every day. There's a lot I don't like about this. For instance, he's implying that, first of all, most people try to learn something new every day. Well, that's not true. Even the people who enjoy learning things every day don't really actually seek out to learn something new every day. Nor do they take a minute to feel good about themselves when they successfully learn something new, which, I mean, valid if you do, but a lot of people don't. He's kind of projecting his own ideal onto everyone else. And, we understand sometimes that's a thing humans do. But to suggest that's the only way to experience a pleasurable state, it's a weird thing to say. I don't know why he would say that. Like, my guy, garlic bread exists. Have you seen garlic bread? I mean, if you haven't, if you want a good time, you could have adult fun time. You could go learning about the universe. And that second one is absolutely worth doing. But you could also have garlic bread. It's a thing. And if you don't have garlic bread handy, we have some merch for that in the merch store on betterthanember.com. And often underneath the videos on YouTube, just throwing that out there. But like, the point is, there are things other than exploring curiosity that can give you a good feeling. I appreciate exploring curiosity. I appreciate learning and finding things out very, very much. But to suggest that's the only way, fuck, that's just not true. And this first part, you're absolutely right. Like, I would think most people feel both of those things pretty much every day. Well, if we're going to get into epistemology, how the fuck does he know? Like, he was talking about epistemology earlier. How could you possibly know what most people feel every day? That's just that. It's going to drive me crazy. So whatever, moving on. The interviewer says, is there any element of curiosity that is enhanced by living in the digital age? What are these questions? At least this one's an actual question. But like, what? At least this has a relationship to the concept of curiosity. What the fuck? Mario says there's some people who have the feeling that because we have information literally at our fingertips, maybe we're becoming less curious. But that's not true. There are two things to remember. One is that when we do scientific research, we try to find answers to questions where we don't know the answers yet. Therefore, we cannot find those answers on the internet or Wikipedia. That's true. Finding out things, in fact, that's one of the main motivators that gets people into science in the first place, is that thrill of discovery, that drive to find out something that no human knew before, but It's really cool. And then, even better, you get to share it. And you get to see that light bulb go off behind other people's eyes when they understand the knowledge you've just given them. It's really cool. The other thing is, I don't know that people are actually becoming less curious. Like, the people who tend to rely on ChatGPT to do their thinking for them, they're not curious people in the first place, generally speaking. It's more like a problem solution kind of thing. Rather than wanting to learn, it's more of I have a problem and I need a solution to it. Like, here's this thing I don't understand. Oh, great genie of the lamp, make me right. Show me how I can continue to be right and not question what I already believe. It's weird. Mario says the other thing is that what the internet allows us to do is to satisfy what has been dubbed specific curiosity. Namely, you want to know a very particular detail. Okay, this one I very much relate to. This is when you want to know, for instance, a thing that I was looking up somewhat recently and is still kind of at the back of my head because I've been telling other people about it for various reasons. What happens to a woman's estrogen levels during pregnancy? People who aren't pregnancy doctors, who aren't OBGYNs or midwives who deal with pregnancy, have no fucking idea, let alone the general public. So it's a specific question that you may know someone who knows the answer, but the odds are you got to look it up. And so, yeah, specific curiosity. You want to know something particular and you can't get the knowledge aside from looking it up. So you look it up. So, namely, you want to know a very particular detail. Who wrote this or that book? Okay, yeah, that's a better specific question, I suppose. Like, we see that one a lot in pop culture. Like, somebody on a show will reference a personality, and you'll be like, oh, what was that person's name? They acted in this movie. They wrote that book, whatever the case may be. You can look it up. Name of the actor of that film. Yeah, okay. The digital age allows you to find the answer very quickly. That's actually good because you don't want to spend all your time trying to answer a question like that. Also, disagreements. Like one disagreement that came up earlier in my life, but still sticks with me sometimes, is what is the singular of lice? I had a person argue with me over that. It's louse, incidentally. A louse, a lousy person, is a person who is riddled with lice because the singular is louse. That's one of those insects. And I had a person argue with me about that, saying that the singular version of lice was also lice, like moose and moose. And I was like, well, you don't have to get worked up over this. We have Google in our pockets. We can just look. And the person got super defensive about it. And I'm like, we could just look. I'm willing to accept if I turn out to be wrong. Why aren't you? So yeah, we can just look things up and settle disagreements. If people are humble enough to accept facts anyway. I don't know how you feel, but sometimes I can be really obsessed by not knowing the answer to something very, very simple like that. I don't know about obsessed, but yeah, it can bug you. I've done many, many jobs over the years, as all the world knows. One of them was as the DJ. And I had this song in my head for 2 years. I could only remember one line of the fucking song. One step ahead, one step behind. It was an 80s song that I hadn't heard since like my childhood or something. But it was stuck in my head and it was bugging me because I didn't know what the rest of the song was for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, one day in the shower, now you got to run to break even. And the rest of the song came to me. It's Van Halen's Right Now. Sometimes brains find the answers. But if I could have just looked the damn thing up, it would have saved me. I mean, granted, I didn't put that much effort into it, but it could have saved me 2 years of my brain turning it over and over and over until it finally came to me. It's fucking wild. Jester says, whoa. If I look it up, I might encounter facts and logic. What will I do then, Amber? Am I ready for that boss battle? I know, however, we to survive if we have facts and things. And speaking of people who are not fans of facts and things, I have to turn my heater down again. So please enjoy this short montage of people who are not big fans of facts and things.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum. And specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because they are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
We have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president.
Then what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
If they die, they die.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
And if you are experiencing spiritual dryness, of course, you know to go to epicwaterfilters.com, code word Ember at checkout, Ember15, to get 15% off. We'll do that commercial another time. I won't. Yes. Anyway, Helen is here. Hello, Helen. Helen says, Ember, you're wearing my favorite shirt on you. It is not a shirt. I realize y'all can't see because vertical camera. You know what? I'll make myself big here. I want to show this thing off. It is a dress. It is the whole Starry Night. I wish it had pockets, but I fucking love it. And also, I'm feeling a little better about myself. Random tangent. People come here for the tangents, which also, incidentally, we have merch for. If you two are here for the tangents, betterthanember.com, go to the store, find the shirt. It's the lowest cost I could make it. I don't make anything off those shirts. I make like 10 cents because that was the lowest price they'd let me set the thing at. But we do have a shirt. Anyway, randomly, because the universe has gone crazy weird, I went to the grocery store yesterday because I was getting low on groceries. I'd completely run out of salad, and that's just not acceptable. TLDR, I've been getting these breakfast sandwiches because they're quick, they're relatively easy, and they're filling enough I can get through the morning show without feeling like I force-fed myself too much too fast, which often happens in these morning shows. TLDR, it comes in two kinds. You can get it as a biscuit or as a croissant. And this isn't relevant to anything, but it's explaining all the weird events, right? So I grabbed two because I was shopping for the whole week. And incidentally, huge thank you to a certain person who sent me a gift card for Christmas. I don't want anybody to feel weird, so I'm not going to say the name, but if the person who did watches this, I used it towards groceries, and now I have groceries for more than a week. And that's really cool. I very much appreciate it. Anyway, I picked up the one of each accidentally. I grabbed a croissant and a biscuit because the boxes are identical. They come in 4-packs. They're both yellow. They're the same size. They, unless you read the thing, and they're next to each other on the shelf. And so someone had put one in front of the other. So I just grabbed two, and it was one of each. So I did all the rest of my shopping. I checked out. I got back to the car, and I checked over my receipt. because despite the fact it was over a week's worth of groceries, it was still 60 some dollars. It was more than the gift card. But I mean, again, super appreciate the gift card. It only cost me $13 to get all those groceries. But anyway, as I'm looking over the receipt, I saw that the egg sandwiches, they rang up differently. And I was like, oh no. And the weird one of them said croissants and one said biscuits. And so I looked at the boxes and holy shit, I grabbed one of the ones with biscuits. And that's not the end of the world. It's just, if you ever microwaved a biscuit, they turn into rocks. No. It's worth it to, while I'm already there at the store, it's worth it to bring it back in and just exchange the damn thing. So because I grabbed the wrong box, I wound up doing an exchange. And because I had to go through the process of doing the exchange, I wound up at the checkouts again at the same time my older daughter came in. And so because of that weird snafu, I ran into my older daughter at the store. And this is especially weird because my older daughter goes to school 4 hours away. And when she's home, she isn't actually home. She lives with her grandma. And this is not the closest store to her grandma's house. So, like, it's just weird to run into her at that store. And the reason I mention all of this is partly because weird shit happens, and sometimes you do run into a person in a place you absolutely should not run into them. But we talked a little bit. They'd been going to the gym. She'd been trying a new diet, etc. And her weight was, she's been worried about her weight since late in high school, but not like obsessively. And I was like, well, that's really cool. You look really healthy. And she was like, well, you look really skinny, like compared to how I've seen you before. And so I realized I can't trust my own eyeballs. I realized she may have been overstating things to be extra nice. But when you see a person that you can, broadly speaking, trust, and it's been a long time, and they're surprised by how good you look, it can make you feel like you look kind of good. You know. So, yeah, hence that story. Point being, be nice to people when you see them, I suppose. Like, I don't know. Like I said, tangent, big tangent. But yes, all of that. The reason I stood up and showed the dress is because I'm feeling better about myself today. And that's why I'm feeling better about myself today. At least for today. Okay, continuing on. Starry Night of Embers. Yay! I know Starry Night is so cool. It's so cool. It's just, it's like, yes, it's impressionistic, but because it's impressionistic, it can capture more of the magic of the night sky than, like, I can do with a photograph. You know? Like, I can do a pretty fair job, but like a painting, any kind of art, that's one of the great things of art, is it can take what's real, the thing that we're perceiving and experiencing, and magnify it in a way that reality can't match. And that's fucking neat. So yeah. Speaking of space stuff, our space stuff has summoned Kyle. Hello, Kyle. Lovely to see you. Let's see. I think I'm mostly caught up. So yeah. SF says, if you put the biscuit inside some paper towel, it retains moisture. It might, but like, why risk it when I can just, you could have like the good product, or you could have the bad product and with some work make it less bad. Like, I'll just take the good product, you know? It's sort of like those barium milkshakes that you have to drink for medical reasons from time to time. You could put some strawberry flavor into it, or you could just have a strawberry milkshake, you know? I mean, obviously that would be less good for medical reasons, but like if you're after good things and flavor and yeah, Answer says Ember's not going to risk it for the biscuit. No, not that kind of biscuit anyway. Breakfast biscuits, I believe they're like officially called English muffins, but they're not muffins either. I don't know. I'm I'm coming off as sounding very picky about food. I'm really not. I actually like way more food than I did before. Like cherries and white chocolate and pineapple and just anyway, let's get back to things before I make myself sound even sillier. I know, can't help that either. All right. I talk too much. You'd think I'd be used to talking a lot by now, wouldn't you? Anyway, interviewer says that's almost a natural component of who we are. There are times when we become obsessed with wanting to know what that information is. Like, what is the thing? I can't quite remember. I don't like the use of that word. Obsession is a specific thing. Maybe it's my tism, but like obsession is a thing, and having like this urge to want to find out a thing, it's only an obsession if you cannot help yourself from acting on it, right? Like you have to drop everything and go to the library and like just tearing through books until you find the answer. That's obsession. This is not that. So Mario says, that's right. In this sense, the digital age helps us because we can find that information, and that may drive us to look for something else about this. And that's another interesting thing, another phenomenon. We used to have a similar thing in libraries. Like you'll go to look up something, and while you go to all the effort to be there, to find the book, to look the thing, you discover the fact you want, but there's a bunch of other interesting stuff surrounding it. And so you get drawn into this book. And before you know it, it's closing time and you've got a stack of 6 texts on your table. And you need to check something out to finish your yeah. Whomst among us has not had that happen? But I digress. On the internet, we have a similar phenomenon where you'll go to look something up and you end up, trying to look up which czar had 6 fingers, and suddenly it's 8 hours later and you're in a rabbit hole about the Bavarian Illuminati's involvement with the Knights Templar in the 11th century. And you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Because you just keep like following these rabbit trails of weird facts. And it's pretty neat, actually. So that could drive perhaps epistemic curiosity, which is this love of knowledge and wanting to learn new things. In that respect, although I don't know as I'd call it epistemic curiosity at that point. It's more of a, I mean, I get that he like thinks that means pleasure motivated curiosity, but that's not the same as epistemology. Anyway, the interviewer says, do you think this love of knowledge is truly the driving force behind curiosity, and the other pieces are part of the spider web off of the core? Well, that's a weird way to phrase that. So love of knowledge can be a main driver of curiosity. Like you just love learning new things. But in all honesty, most curiosity kind of comes from a love of drama. We get all these nosy neighbors who want to ask about everybody's business because they love the drama, not so much. I mean, I suppose you could say that's love of knowledge in that it's a very specific type of knowledge, but they love it for the utility rather than for the knowledge itself, what they can use it for, right? Like by knowing your neighbor's dirty laundry, how many mistresses they've had, or where the bodies are buried. You can use that either social currency with other people or to blackmail them with, for instance. Like, you know what? I don't want to ruin a surprise. Suffice it to say, I've been using that aspect as a sort of trap for certain people who might be inclined to blackmail recently. I don't want to say exactly what it was, because I'm waiting until they try to spring the trap and it goes off in their faces. Drama. Anyway, yeah, I can have fun with drama too. Even though I think it's inherently destructive, I can take advantage of the people who are being destructive through their love of drama and let them destroy themselves with it. It'll be fun. Oh, goodness. One If by Land says, vicarious curiosity, a brand new psychological term. psychology term. Kind of. I don't know if that's like a term per se, but I guess that's what it means to say that it's brand new. But yeah, like for instance, my oldest is a working or organic chemist, and I'm constantly fascinated about the things they learn. They don't want to talk about work, but I'm like, you're so interested in science, you wanted to get into the field. I'm interested in the science too. Tell me the things. And they're like, it's not that important. It's just batches of processes and chemical reactions and doing PCR tests to confirm that the thing did the thing. And I'm like, yes, but that's the thing that I'm interested in, you know? Like I get to you, it's just like a factory style process, but it's biology rather than just stuff in vats, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Similar thing with my older daughter. She's getting a tattoo, her first tattoo, which should be interesting. And she showed me obviously I don't have the design she's going to use because the artist is still creating it, but she showed me some of the inspiration bits, and it's pretty spooky. So I'm excited. One of Bylane says I suffer from organic chemistry PTSD. A lot of people do. Something about the curriculum is just not conducive to good learning. Answer says, Ember, do they even know you at all? I know, right? Like, I want to know all the things. Let it be known to all and sundry. I want to know all the things. I've always been like that. I've always been fascinated by the things that are interesting to other people. Like if you tell me something like economics, my economics teacher was boring as hell. He basically just read old Reagan speeches and pulled on his earlobes. It was not a good class. I didn't learn very much from him. I mostly just learned the basics from the textbook. But when a teacher is actually interested in what they're saying, like my English teacher, I was not a fan of English as an academic subject in high school because most of the teachers were really, really bad at it. They just covered the basic curriculum, but it was all like, spelling and grammar and memorize Shakespeare, which wasn't hard for me because I'd been in theater all my life and spent my summers at the Renaissance Fair. So neither the language nor the theater part of it was an issue for me. But I digress. To them, it was like a chore. They took Hamlet and made it work. Like it was a labor, or Love's Labor's Lost for that matter, into a labor. How blasphemous. But then I had this one teacher who he started talking about Kerouac, and like not just the book, but like what he's trying to say with the book. And I mean, he related it to songs and had us like actually write poetry, not for some kind of formula, but to say something symbolically. And I could go on and on. The point is, the more excited an educator is about the subject they're educating on, the easier it is to learn what they're putting down. But also, the more excited you can become about the thing that you're trying to learn, the easier it is for you to remember more of it. And I don't know, I love that feeling of learning. And so I've always been of a nature where, pre-transition, I felt like I wasn't allowed to know things about fashion, but I had so many girlfriends that wanted to talk about like shoes and things. Like I still barely know the difference between a pump and a regular heel, but I would happily listen, because I can talk about colors and coordination and the different way. I didn't have firsthand understanding of how it feels, but I got the general impression that it's a matter of balance and poise, and it changes your gait and your stance and your posture. Like heels don't just give you a couple extra inches. They change your entire bearing. They make you present as a much more confident person under the right circumstances. And that's pretty cool. But I digress. Again, Tangents. So Mario says, not necessarily. There have been all kinds of experiments in neuroscience with functional MRI. Is that? I don't think that's what fMRI means. Hold please. I may be mistaken. Let me look that up. What does fMRI stand for? Yes. Okay, fMRI stands for functional magnetic resonance imaging, or a non-invasive technique that maps the brain activity by detecting changes in blood flow and oxygenation, revealing which areas of the brain are working during specific tasks, helping researchers and doctors understand brain function and plan treatments for neurological conditions. Cool. So, this is me learning that something I had thought was wrong. And this is how we can look things up immediately on the internet. It's really cool that way, because I had always been given to understand, not just from my own interpretation, but other sources, other authors have written it as fast MRI, because we know that regular MRI is functional, or we wouldn't use it. So functional is a weird word for that, right? So it was fast MRI because the MRI has to be fast to track brain activation. But that's not what's happening here. Functional MRI doesn't mean the MRI is functional. It means the MRI is being used to track brain function. It's the thing that the MRI is being used for. It's looking at what is functioning inside the brain, which things are being activated. I think fMRI, fast MRI might be a better name, but so yeah, we learned something. I learned something. I corrected a bit of incorrect data in my head, and that's neat. That's almost as neat as learning something new. See, this is a thing I'm constantly telling people, and people don't seem to believe me. I want to know when I'm wrong, because then I can stop being wrong. That's almost as cool as learning something new, Goodness. Okay, an Entropy fan confirms it is functional. Yes. I just wasn't looking at the chat at the time. So yeah, it's pretty neat. Okay. Aunt Jer says pumps are like this, the basic emoji. That's like a standard high heel shoe looking thing. So pumps are a type of heel. So it's not necessarily the shoe, it's the heel. Maybe I'll look into that sometime. Not for this show though. I'm so prone to tangents. I'm so every fucking which way. All right, let's take a quick break to actually hydrate in keeping with my contractual obligations. Let's all take a sip. And return in 60 seconds. And we'll switch over to the other article where we may actually learn more about curiosity. I'm curious what it says. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. Hell yeah. We're being epic up in here today. I see we've got a whole thing going about high heels. Maybe I should have done the stream about that. People seem much more interested in it. It's not you guys. You guys are here. I appreciate you being here. It's that I don't understand. Last month we were doing the Atheist Advent, where we were going through the building blocks of how we know what we know in a secular way to break free of religious oppression and whatnot. And that seemed to be going really, really well. aside from the big dramatic bomb that went off in the middle of the month, but never mind that. We were getting somewhere. Like, views kept, generally speaking, going up and up and up. We started getting like our best viewed episode day after day after day. We were breaking the previous record over and over. And I was really enjoying covering, learning-based topics. Let's learn the history of chemistry, for example. That's a thing we'll be doing on Friday. And all these various things, and it was going really well. But I don't know, for some reason after the new year, views just fell off a cliff. And I understand every creator says that things on YouTube just are crap in the mid to late winter, January and February. Views just fall off a cliff. I don't know why. No one seems to know why. You would think when it's snowy and people are mostly inside, more people would watch YouTube, but it seems to be the other way around. I get that views go down, but like today's viewership, for example, we're averaging just under 20 viewers at this moment throughout the course of this stream. That is less than a fifth of what it was 2 weeks ago. And that's troubling, So I don't know. I'm curious what's behind it so that I can fix the problem, because I would love to keep doing shows where we can learn together live. But I also have to be able to afford groceries and things. I need to be able to afford my electricity to be able to do this, So as much as I love doing this, these shows, this particular kind of topic, I need to focus on surviving, and it's an oof. So I have to figure out a way to try to bridge that divide, to do what it is I want to do, but also be able to eat, So if you have any suggestions, hit me up on Discord DM, send me an email, something along those lines. I would love to figure out a way to fix this. Maybe I need to make the thumbnails more spicy. I don't know, but I'm open to suggestions. We'll see. Anyway, let's see what the Britannica's Curiosity Compass, whatever that means. Oh, yeah. Okay, Signs of Curiosity. Share this article. I should put that, I don't really publish on my Substack very often, because mostly when I have time, I'm either producing a show or putting together the parts I need to produce a show. But I should just put right at the top of my articles on Substack, share this article. Maybe I should do it on my videos. Very first thing, share this video, I don't know. Anyway, perhaps it was the bolt of lightning that piqued the early humans' curiosity. Perhaps it was a raging wildfire. But once upon a time, an early human channeled inspiration into pure ingenuity and figured out how to start a fire. Now that is how to start an article. And not just because of my name. This is good shit. This is well done. I like it. And also, we didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. Thinking back on that English class, as I've mentioned before, I don't have a very hard time memorizing theatrical stuff. And a lot of what I did as a child was in musical theater. And so memorizing songs isn't especially hard for me either. And certain songs, like We Didn't Start the Fire, seemed especially difficult because it's just a random list of words that have to do with historical events for certain years in chronological order. But it's the years in chronological order, not necessarily the events within the years. So We Didn't Start the Fire is just a jumble of words, effectively. when I was in that English class, my senior year of high school, the teacher was trying to bring us to a reference about thalidomide. And so he mentioned it's in Billy Joel's song, We Didn't Start the Fire. And so I just started going through the whole song to try to get to the point that he was mentioning, because I couldn't remember the specific lyric because of the way the song is put together, just a jumble of words. I knew the term he was looking for was in there, but I didn't know which verse it was in. So I just went through the whole song until I got there. And I don't know, it just, for some reason, it impressed some of my classmates, and others were like, holy shit, you're a bigger nerd than I thought, which, valid. It was, and every so often, when it gets mentioned enough, it starts to creep into my head. Like just now, as I started that tangent, the reason I mentioned it is because somewhere in the back of my brain, there was a little voice going, Harry Truman, Doris Day, Ed China, Johnny Ray, South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Joe DiMaggio, Joe McCartney, Richard Nixon, Studebaker Television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe, and so on. Rosenberg's H-bomb, by the way, is the next verse. I can't help it. Subscribe to my Ember fans if you want to listen to me sing for some reason. I don't actually have an Ember fans right now. I had to suspend it because I was getting creepy people. But I wouldn't be averse to having one on principle. Anyway, the control of fire. Holy shit, I am all over the place. The control of fire supplemented humankind's first invention, the stone tool. And that's an important distinction. Control of fire. Fire was not an invention. Fire already existed. Technically, stones already existed too, but details. The stone tool. Next came boats, then spears, then language, glue, clothing, and even the flute. Not necessarily in that order. I dare say pointy sticks came before boats. Not actually a flute, it's a penny whistle. Often, so my fingers are a different shape than they used to be. So this may or may not go well. It did not go well. Nope, not working. Okay, well, we tried. We tried for science, but I have one, it works, and technically I know how to play one. I just have to retrain my fingers because they're a different size. Oh, change is hard, folks. It can be, anyway. Anyhow, continuing on. Inventions not necessarily in that order. Each of these incredible inventions came to fruition in the mind of early humans many tens of thousands of years ago. Some sort of special spark drove humans to explore, discover, and later to invent. That special spark lives within each of us. It makes us eager to learn things and to solve problems. Whenever you're listening to music, reading a book, or watching TV, it's there, helping your imagination soar. This special spark is curiosity, the desire to seek out new knowledge and learn how things work. Jester says, I have invented pointed stick. And that is indeed a very helpful technology for a whole bunch of reasons. Absolutely. Injure says, live action Ember, it might not go well. Narrator Ember, it did not go well. I mean, it could have been worse. Oh, yeah, it's Weed Bro. This is a penny whistle, actually. It's very similar to a recorder, but there are some technical differences having to do with the reed configuration or something, and also the size of the holes. Like in a typical recorder, you've got a double hole at the bottom here, and the other holes are the same size. That's not true in this case. Every other note is in an enlarged hole, and the reason for that is so you can let part of the air through, because it's like an actual instrument, not just a cover the hole kind of instrument. The downside is the shape of your fingers matters. You don't just plug the hole. So, details. Aunt Jer says, does it cost a penny? In the old days, so I've been given to understand, it did. But of course, inflation makes fools of us all, and now it costs probably $100,000 or something. I don't know. That one was a gift from a person who noticed that I like to play music, and that was a portable music thing. My musical ability has been limited by capitalism over the course of the years. I taught myself to play piano so I can play some things and not others randomly. I used to play cello, but things happened and I got screwed out of that. I'm a sucker for violin. I love the viola, but I never really got a chance. And by the time my oldest started learning violin, my fingers were so fucking big. Like it was physically impossible for me to hit just one string. I couldn't do it because my fingers are too big. Now my fingers are smaller, so maybe it would go better, but I can't afford a violin, so I don't know. Various things like that. So I've had different instruments over the course of my life. I played drums for a while. But it's always briefly. It's always opportunistically, because aside from when I was a little kid and someone got me a synthesizer, I've never really had my own instruments per se. So someone gave me the penny whistle because I could bring it with me as a truck driver, and it was a thing that I could just fiddle with, you might say. So yeah. All right, where the hell were we? Why are we curious? But why? I'm curious about our curiosity, and maybe now we shall uncover the secret at the heart of human hearts, or something. How does curiosity work in the brain? If there's one thing that stimulates our curiosity most, it's a complex topic shrouded in mystery. So, where do we start? Mindfinished Sock says, don't stop the violins. Like and share the stream instead. I mean, that's a good place to start. Yes. Aunt Jer says, make your own violin with a watermelon and some dental floss. I'm not sure I can do that. I may not have the technical expertise to pull that off. It's a fun idea, though. One way to begin exploring curiosity is to understand information seeking. This behavior is observable across the entire animal kingdom, from apes and dolphins all the way down to crabs and tiny nematode worms. Information seeking means that every animal seeks information about their environment. This is so they know how to navigate it. That's why we have eyeballs, is to gather more information. In fact, that's why many sensory organs exist. Oh, it's saying the thing I just said. To supply the brain with information that helps you understand your environment and make better choices. But when does information seeking qualify as curiosity? The difference, we now believe, is in the motivation. If you're seeking knowledge because of an external motivation, like school or work, then it does not qualify as curiosity. Because if you're seeking knowledge because you're internally motivated, because you just want to know the answer, that's curiosity. Think about the early human 35,000 years ago who made the very first flute. They were not driven by a need to stay warm or eat food. Instead, they were internally motivated to make an instrument that could make a beautiful sound. Now, you can't just make a flute. There's a lot of underlying knowledge and understanding that has to come first before you can even attempt to make a flute. But whatever. And True Fan says, tiny nematode worms unnecessarily mean to Stephen Miller. He's a perfectly adequate sized nematode worm at 5'5". Oh no. I mean, in fairness, however you can be mean to Stephen Miller, you're not being mean enough. But that wasn't directed at Stephen Miller. Anyway, when something piques your curiosity, say an interesting fact or an unexpected noise in the other room, your brain enters into what's called the curiosity state. First, the parts of the brain that are sensitive to unpleasant conditions light up. This shows that you are slightly uncomfortable because you recognize you are lacking certain knowledge. Not, you're lacking a specific piece of knowledge. There is certain knowledge and you don't have it. This is a certain pen. It is one pen distinct from my other pens. It happens to have a big old booby on it. But it is, I could ask for a pen or I could ask for this certain pen. Then there's also certain pens. All pens certainly are pens. So what do we mean by certain here? I'm not going to get all philo-bro on this. Then parts of your brain responsible for learning and memory kick into high gear so that you can learn and remember what you've learned more efficiently. It is at this point that you are primed to begin your search for answers. And when you actually begin learning new facts in your curiosity state, something even more interesting than heightened memory happens. Your reward circuitry kicks in. That's right. Your brain rewards you for being curious and for pursuing that curiosity. Researchers have determined by being curious that dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, is intricately linked to the brain's curiosity state. Citation. When you explore and satisfy your curiosity, your brain floods your body with dopamine, which makes you feel happier or more self-satisfied or whatever. The reward mechanism increases the likelihood that you'll try and satisfy your curiosity again in the future. Do it more, baby. Oh, goodness. And if you want to do it more, well, you know, we do have that garlic bread shirt. Just saying. Oh, now I'm going to have to go have garlic bread for lunch. Garlic bread and a salad. Haha. Anyhow. The idea that our brains reward us for learning and actually lines up with the hypothesis that curiosity helped our early human ancestors survive too. Think about the usefulness of a stone tool or a boat. Humans need to understand the environment and manipulate it in order to survive. That's an important note. Humans manipulate our environments. Now, a lot of animals do. Any animals that dig a den or build a nest manipulate their environment to some extent, but only to a limited extent, the extent they need in order to survive. Other animals manipulate their environment more. Beavers, for instance, build dams that cause large-scale ecological change. Humans, our entire thing is manipulating our environment. That's like our special skill. We don't just dig dens, we build artificial caves and then put artificial lights in them with artificial heats and so on and so forth. Mechanisms, machinery to help preserve our food and keep it safe longer and so on, liken unto that. So, in a way, this kind of curiosity is one of the things that lets us human better, because invention is directly related to our ability to survive in an evolutionary way. We like to talk about how we've got all these great abilities, our ability to reason, our ability to endure, our ability to use opposable thumbs, but none of those things are unique to humans. What makes humans unique is the things that we've invented, our technology, including language. Other animals have means to communicate too, but our ability to be precise to such a degree that if I describe an object, a bright, shiny red apple with a single leaf coming off the stem and speckles on the surface, you can visualize that. I just sent that thought into your mind by the use of sound. That's augmented telepathy. That's pretty fucking cool. That's a thing humans invented. Our technology is our evolutionary advantage. And the ability to create new technology, that's sort of like a way to take genetic heritable properties outside of the genetic chemistry. We can pass knowledge on to our children or to our families, our clans. The person who invents the plow, their family has a much better chance of surviving and reproducing than the family 100 kilometers away that doesn't have that technology. And we can trade that technology for other humans' technology. So we all have a better chance to survive. It's really cool. So yeah, of course there's a reward mechanism. It's the same as for sex, and for the same reason. Having sex increases your species' chance of survival, because whether you successfully reproduce or not, it increases the odds of successful reproduction. Same thing with discovery, with curiosity, with innovation, with invention. It rewards you because just like having sex could bring someone new into the world, curiosity could bring something new into the world. And it's all good for your species. So yeah. Whether it means knowing the best routes to flank animals on a hunt, where the best caves were for shelter, or how to find edible plants or berries, curiosity about the environment led to better survival. Our most curious ancestors had an advantage over those who weren't curious. Well, okay. My contrary nature requires me to push back on that a bit. Despite what I just said, you can't take curiosity too far. A person who's overly curious, who is eager to find out which berries are safe to eat and does so by eating all the berries to see what happens, is likely to end up dead. So you got to be safe about your curiosity. You know, we know which mushrooms are safe and which ones are deadly because people have tried them. We know how cyanide works because people have tried sources of cyanide. Like, you can be not too curious, but incautious about your curiosity. So yeah. Over thousands of years, only the most curious people reproduced. Well, that's just not true. That's just not true. You don't have to be curious to reproduce. In fact, some of the least curious people seem to be the best at reproduction. But that's why a society requires diversity, leading to the characteristic curiosity of many modern-day humans. Certain modern-day humans, but you know. Today, our curiosity isn't so useful in terms of survival. Oh, but it is. It's what drives us to, like, learn how antibiotics work and shit. But it is useful when we think about education or even what makes us happy. And when it comes to education or satisfying your curiosity, scientists say there are two distinct types of curiosity that we can express. And I think this is relating to the book we just talked about. The first is called epistemic curiosity. Have you ever gone down a rabbit hole of link clicking on the internet? The example that I was using when we were talking about the book. Or gotten so obsessed with a favorite book series or TV show that you had to research everything you could about it. That's epistemic curiosity, the drive to eliminate information gaps and learn new explicit information. When you feel that thirst to acquire new knowledge, your brain actually responds to it as if you are actually thirsty or hungry. That's where the areas sensitive to unpleasant conditions light up. And that's why it feels so great to satisfy your curiosity. Thanks, dopamine. So literally scratching an itch, intellectually speaking. I'm tempted to make a pun here. And if you want to scratch an itch, I don't have a thing to actually be an ad for that. And also we're getting close to the end of the show. Related note, the next show I have queued up is as a bonus show. Of course, all the Learn Together lives are already pre-scheduled, but the next bonus show I have queued up is a segment of Piers Morgan on Jubilee. And it's an oof. There's several points I want to use that encounter to make, so I'm going to go ahead with it. But there's a bunch of other stuff I want to get to also. For example, Helen Joyce and Helen Weberly debated, and I want to cover some of that because there's a lot of horrible things that need addressing and a lot of misstatements that need addressing. There's, like I said at the start of the show, there's the oral arguments at the Supreme Court. There's so much other stuff. So I'm also curious if I should try to do like a long multi-point style show, sort of like we used to do for Science Sundays when I would cover like several different stories, and just go as long as it takes to do the thing, or if I should like try to find a way to do more shows, regardless of what the hell the algorithm thinks. I don't know. I'm trying to find ways to make this channel work, because if I don't, then I won't be around to try to make the channel work. So, you know, I'm open to advice on those things. I don't want to overdo my content so that people are just like, oh, I don't need to tune into Ember. She's always on and she'll be talking about something else in another 10 minutes. You know, I already feel like I kind of do that already. I'm also still on the fence about call-in stuff, because I do see so many people doing call-in shows. It's kind of an overdone thing, but there's so few people who do them about things that aren't explicitly Christianity is wrong or MAGA is evil, or both. And don't get me wrong, some of the people who do that are very lovely people, but there's other things that really need attention. I don't know. I'm curious how things could work or should work. Like, I don't want to just make enough money to survive. That I mean, I have to, but I don't want to just do that. I want to do some good with this channel. If I was just interested in money, there's a lot easier ways to do that, as I'm sure y'all know. I've said more than once, I know the apologist arguments better than the apologists do. So I just can't bring myself to be evil on purpose just to afford food. You know, it's a flaw in my character. I know one cannot live in a capitalist society and have a conscience, but I'm stuck with it. It's a disability, you might say. All right. The second type of curiosity you might find yourself expressing is empathic curiosity. I can say words. Words are hard. Human life is built on relationships and interactions between people, and empathic curiosity is the drive to know more about what other people think and feel. Now, this is different from what we were getting from the book. This is a different thing. This is also not what I would call the other kind of curiosity, but I want to hear what else they have to say. When you are in comfortable social situations, your curiosity state is especially pleasurable, according to research. And again, that's when your dopamine releases in high levels. Encouraging both types of curiosity in yourself is an important step to becoming a well-rounded learner. So my epistemic curiosity is a little grumpy about a gap in knowledge. Are those the only two states? Because I don't think they are. And if so, how do we know? How do we rule out other kinds? It seems like it's begging the question after a fashion. It's assuming there's two states, and then any other exceptions are being black and white fallacied into one of those two states. It's sort of like the binary arguments that we hear when it comes to sex, right? Like people are like, oh, intersex people don't exist. Sure, there are people with, you know, deformities and deviations and differences. Triple D, you might say. But they're all fundamentally male or female. No, bestie, that's not how that works. So it's this begging the question sort of thing. It's proposing that there's only two possibilities and then special pleading the exceptions into being one of those two possibilities. Like, what if there's more than two possibilities? Would it be so bad? So how do we know? You know? Greater knowledge about yourself and how you express your curiosity can help you with that process. That's why Britannica has developed a quiz about curiosity, because people who are curious love nothing more than saying the things they already know instead of finding out new things. Whatever. That you can take right now, and a whole host of information and resources on the subject. In today's world, being curious can enrich your life massively, which is why it's such a damn shame that so few people are curious. We work with what we've got, I suppose. I'm hoping that if I can start reaching people on a larger scale, I can help ignite that sense of curiosity in them. I really believe that would make the world a better place. Pursuing your passions is satisfying both in the short term and in the long term. Whether you go exploring your curiosity through social events or study, and whether you dive into biology, philosophy, psychology, your environment, or beyond. I do want to dive into my environment or beyond. I love going out into the woods, going into the mountains, going to the waterfalls. One of my main goals with trying to heal, trying to physically be more capable, it isn't just to be able to go work. It's to go out. I miss the nature. I love the nature. I love the woods. I love the waterfalls. I love the mountains. I love the valleys. The world is so magnificent, so wonderful. And on the biggest scales or the smallest, every little corner of every forest, you can turn over a piece of fallen bark and find an entire ecosystem. Dozens of creepy crawly things and little mushrooms and maybe some mosses. Like, there's so much there. And I want to go see it. And I can't. It hurts to drive very far. It starts as a small pain and it builds up the longer I keep driving. And so I can't go very far by car without a tremendous amount of pain. And worse if I keep trying to push it. Walking hurts. Again, I can't go very far before the pain becomes debilitating. I keep trying. I keep working on it. I'm taking my medicines. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to stay on top of my physical therapy. But I missed last summer. I missed the whole fucking thing. I could barely go to the store. Last fall, I managed to get up to the point where if I really pushed, I could do 5 kilometers. But that was really pushing when I'd specifically psyched myself up to do that. And that's getting the distance done, not stopping to admire the flowers and the bugs and things. I really miss it. I want to get better so that I can go out into the damn world again. I don't know if that'll ever happen. At this point, I don't know. There's some things that take a lot longer to heal than others. My ears are still messed up. They're very, very slowly getting better. But they are getting better. Maybe the rest of me will get better very slowly too. I don't know. Remember that different approaches will suit different people, and that it's what each of us does with the information that matters. Do you want to know just because you want to know? Do you want to invent something new? Do you want to answer a specific question, or do you want to create something? Make the world a better place. Make the world a less hostile place. Who's to say? The main thing, though, is that so long as you're alive, you're able to influence this world in some way, large or small. The choices you make and the things you do send ripples cascading out through the world, through the rest of the people, through the population and the environment and space and time. And the fact that you lived will echo across all of history. Use that time wisely. Learning is never a waste of time, but remember to do something with it. Member stream later today, bonus show when I can. And of course, join us tomorrow. We've got more goodies up ahead every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern. As always, remember, you don't have to pretend knowledge doesn't matter, curiosity doesn't matter, and people don't matter, because you are better than religion. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for December. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkison, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Liliball Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, Secular Feelinist, and Geo Sam. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn